Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use the new Artistry shape tape to get the popular burst design. I have avoided this for quite some time, but I'm really glad that I actually jumped on the bandwagon and tried this out because I really love the results. The first thing we are going to do is take a 24-ounce plump from the steel Magnolia. This is a straight tumbler with no taper. And wrap a sheet of printer paper around the tumbler and mark off where it overlaps and on the bottom to get our dimensions. You can use a measuring tape to measure your dimensions, of course. However, I have found that using a sheet of notebook paper is the most comparable as far as thickness to any sort of vinyl that we're using or this shape tape, and you get a more accurate measurement. So I just took the sheet of paper, trimmed it off, and then I marked it in centimeters on my vinyl trimmer and then converted that just using Google so I could get the correct dimensions for my 24-ounce plump from the steel Magnolia. There's lots of easier ways to do this. I'm sure I'm just horrible at math, and this is the best way for me. I grabbed this coffee leopard print burst file from Etsy. I will have that link down below for y'all. And I added in the dimensions of 9.6 by 8, and that was actually a hair too wide, but we made it work. So to use our shape tape, I am going to use a light adhesive mat. The shape tape packs comes nicely packaged in a cardboard envelope so it stays nice and straight with no creases, and it also has directions on the front of the package for silhouette. So if you have a silhouette and this part of this tutorial is not really beneficial to you, your directions will be on the front of the shape tape package. Just line your piece of shape tape up correctly on your mat. And I have a older Cricut. I set it to the custom settings. Head over to my laptop and select Browse All Materials. I typed in washi tape, and then I will select the washi tape 0.06 millimeter setting. I am also using a brand new blade on my Cricut, so I did have a couple spots where it cut through just slightly too much, but it was very minimal. So if you are using a newer or older blade, that can also change the settings that you need to use, and you can adjust those custom settings. You can do 0.04, 0.05, or 0.07, whatever works best for you. I suggest just try and error on a couple small sheets just to make sure that you're getting the perfect cut before you go and cut a full sheet. Once that's cut, I'm just going to trim off the excess shape tape, and the larger portion of it that was on the bottom, I'm going to sit that to the side and save it for our decal. And I did want to mention once again, make sure you are using a light grip mat or an older mat that you really don't have a whole lot of tackiness to, because you definitely do not want this to stick to your mat after it has took so much time to cut your beautiful design. We are going to use the Hinge Method to apply this to our tumbler. So we are just going to pull that back just a tiny bit, trim off a little bit of that excess backing, and then we will line it up on the tumbler just ever so slightly down from that top rim so we can expose a little bit of that stainless. Also, if you are going to be using light colors, you want to make sure that your tumbler is spray painted a base color. I always spray paint my tumblers unless I'm using a silver glitter or if it is a colored vinyl and I'm doing a full wrap. And unfortunately, I made a huge mistake here by removing the backing completely and then rolling my tumbler onto that. I have saw many people do this with wraps, and I'm assuming with a vinyl wrap, since the vinyl is thinner, then it probably would have worked well. But for this, since I'm using a white glitter, you really don't want any air bubbles to gather underneath your shape tape, or that will show, because it's going to show a little bit of a difference in coloration under your white glitter, and I had lots of air bubbles. I did not realize that until after I had applied my first coat of epoxy. So this one will just end up sitting pretty on my shelf or being stripped instead of being sold, but it's okay. This was actually only my second burst tumbler, so I mean, everything is a learning experience, so I will definitely know that the next time, and I think I'm gonna have to make another one of these because I love how it turned out. So I just trimmed off the excess since I cut it a hair bit too wide, and then I'm gonna go in and remove where I'm going to put my black glitter. You want to start with your darkest color first. If you start with the lightest glitter and work your way up to the darkest, or don't necessarily have a plan in mind, I guess you can say, for it, then it will look a hot mess, I'm not gonna lie, because all of your dark glitters will be intertwined with your light glitters and you won't have those nice, crisp, and clean lines. As you are pulling off that protective layer, make sure that you are taking your time so that you are not removing anything that does not need to be removed for this color. So I am moving slow. This is actually sped up ×2, if that can give you an idea on how slow I am removing this. And also, as you make your way around, make sure that you are pressing down any pieces that may be sticking up that are for another color, so you don't run into any of those other colors and unable to correct that mistake. Shape tape is super sticky, so there is no need for Mod Podge or anything like that. You don't have to seal the color and then go back in with another coat. It's one and done. Remove the protective layer, throw your glitter on, rub it in, you can move on. But since it is so super sticky and it works so well, if you don't have any of that protective layer pressed down in your other colors and you get some glitter in an area that it shouldn't have been, then it is going to be really difficult to remove that and correct that mistake. The first glitter color that we are using is Midnight 0.008 cut. This is a fine glitter. This is going to be for our outlines and our leopard spots. I just heavily sprinkle or dump that glitter on there, and then once I have all areas completely coated, then I will go in and pull that glitter that is on the piece of paper underneath it, put it on top of the tumbler, and then sort of rub it in. You don't want to scrub, you don't want to remove any of those other bits of protective layer on there, but you want to rub it into that shape tape so that it is adhered really well and you have all areas covered. Now sometimes where the seam is, which mine is not very well at all because again I cut it a little bit too wide, but where your seam is, if you get any glitter that sticks to the edge of it, you can take a craft knife or a weeding pin and sort of pick out those little bits of glitter so that you cannot see your seam if you get it lined up perfectly. But in my case, I really wasn't at all concerned about the seam. I already had a decal in mind for this tumbler, and it's going to cover that seam up completely. Once we have that first glitter done, then go over with some sort of brush, which I just showed you that I brushed it off with my hand, but you definitely want to go in with a soft brush. I use a makeup brush, the same ones that I use to paint my tumblers, and just brush any of that excess off before you move into the next color, so you won't have any combining or little bits in other colors that's not supposed to be there. And let me point out of how amazing the coverage is on that black glitter. If that doesn't show you how tacky this stuff is, I don't know what will. You can't see any white whatsoever through my black glitter. So the initial first layer coverage is incredible on top of the already amazing glitter coverage from PDB Creative Studio. The green glitter that we used is Taurus, and we're just going to repeat the same steps until we have completed glittering our tumbler. My favorite cut of glitter to use is 0.015. It is a fine XL, so it is a fine glitter, but it's just slightly bigger than the 0.008 because it gives more dimension and I really feel like it stands out from the tumbler. But if you have two colors, or I'm sorry, one color, but two different sizes. So this, for instance, is a 0.008 and a 0.015 cut that are the same or similar colors. I'm going to mix those together so I get better coverage, but also showing a little bit of dimension. These two colors are Beast and Charisma, and I thought this gold was really awesome. It looks just like one of those cardboard sleeves that you would put on a hot coffee cup. Picking out colors for these can be sort of difficult at times. You have to bring out the child and you print off a sheet of your design and then color it in with color pencils or crayons, something to help give your mind an idea and make a plan before you dive in. Because if you go in without knowing the colors that you were going to use, you'll be standing there scratching your head forever, and it's so time consuming to try to match them and just picture it in your head. So definitely print it out. Color in the areas so you know what glitters you want to use and then match that with your glitter colors. And the weeding pen that I'm using is from Artistry Epoxy as well. And I absolutely love this thing. I actually took it apart, just curious to see what was inside of it. And there is an additional pin inside. So if the tip wears out on the one that you are using, you can just pull the pin apart and replace it. And it's actually a sewing needle inside of it. So you can purchase those so cheap at a craft store and just replace it, and it will last you forever. This glitter we are using is Nude. It is a 0.008 cut, and I thought it was perfect for the background and one of the outlines of our coffee cup. It is a very light and subtle color, and I wanted to use that for the background so our coffee mugs will really stand out. Now going into our final and lightest color, I'm going to really clean off all of the excess glitter from this tumbler, make sure my area is clean so that there is no way that any other glitter is going to contaminate my white spots. As I mentioned before, I am using a soft bristle brush. Going over that with a soft bristle is going to work just as well as any of the other paint brushes that I have saw anyone use, but it's not going to remove anything that is stuck to the shape tape. The goal is to remove excess glitter, not to remove what is already stuck down and what you want to stay there for your design. So remove all the little bits for the coffee cups, and then we are going to go in with our white glitter. The white glitter that we are using is Angel, also from PDB Creative Studio. And y'all, I don't know why I have allowed this to sit on my shelf. It is absolutely beautiful, and I have to do a full white tumbler using this glitter. It is white, but it has a very, very subtle holographic shift. You can see that pearliness to it as I'm putting it on the tumbler and moving it back and forth. There's a teeny tiny bit of color shift to it. It's perfect, and everyone should have this glitter. Since it is a white glitter, before I knocked off the excess glitter from my tumbler, I removed that sheet of paper that was underneath it and then just sprinkled the glitter in the areas that I needed a little bit more coverage and dabbed that on. This is a multi-size mix, so it did have some larger pieces of glitter in there, and as you can see, they still adhered really well to the shape tape. Once I finished all of my glittering, I added some COLORFLEX glitter glue, also by Artistry. If you saw any of my other tutorials here recently, I have absolutely loved the COLORFLEX glitter glue. I used a makeup brush for the application and then just dumped my glitter on and then tapped it down so none of the little pokey bits were standing up. I allowed that glitter glue to dry for about 2 hours, and then I sealed with 2 really good coats of Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. You want to really seal those glitters in so they don't move, and then I went in with 1 coat of Artistry's 1:1 ratio fast set. I found this Coffee Heartbeat SVG on Creative Fabrica, and I pulled it into Design Space and resized it to completely cover up that seam on my tumbler. We're going to have 3 layers, so we have the top decal, and then I'm going to do a 0.035 offset. Select the offset and then do a 0.20 of that one. I align them together to make sure that they are the correct size and just how I would like them to be, and then made them all the same color so they would print on the same sheets. And then I took that piece of shape tape that we saved in the beginning and used for the largest offset. I used white for the 0.035 offset, and then for my main color I used the perfect matching green vinyl from TeckWrapcraft. Now, if you are using shape tape to do a burst design, if you do not want it to cut all the way through those first 2 layers, then you need to use the washi tape setting. However, if you want to use it to make a decal like this or add glitter in a certain area, then you can use your regular vinyl cutting setting. Then it will cut that top layer as well as the shape tape underneath and not go through the back completely. I just removed the excess, took off that protective layer, and then placed my leopard print full from Southern Belle glitter over top of that, rubbed it down really well, and removed, and then we are left with a really cool custom offset. I weeded my other 2 vinyls and then we layered them all together. Now I'm using TeckWrapcraft transfer tape as well. It came in this pack of the matte permanent vinyls that I'm using for that green color. I will link that down below for y'all. It is an incredible pack of colors. It has some unique ones in there that I have not seen elsewhere, and I have really put it to use. I went completely off track there because I get excited about my TeckWrapcraft vinyl. I absolutely love it and will swear by it. But where I was going with that is I took some of the stickiness away from that transfer tape because I don't want it to remove any of the folds from my shape tape once I apply it to my tumbler. So I stuck it to my desk a couple of times, and then I actually stuck it to my shirt to remove some even more stickiness from it. I grabbed my tumbler, and as you can see, I have sanded it down just a tiny bit, and I'm placing that decal perfectly across that seam. Press that decal down really well, and when you remove your transfer tape, if you didn't take enough of the stickiness away, then you can just go back over those areas if it lifted any of your folds and rub on a little bit of your folds in those spots, and you'll never be able to tell. The decal does not require any sealing, so I moved straight into applying my epoxy. For the first final coat, I used Artistry's 1:1 ratio fast set. Although it does dry super fast, about an hour in my area, and I'm able to handle it around the 3 to 4 hour mark, I allowed this to dry overnight so I can sand it, and then used Artistry's regular epoxy with UV Plus for my final coat and protect those whites on here even longer. As always, all of the materials that I have used in this tutorial will be listed down below, along with some amazing coupon codes for you to take advantage of. I hope that you all enjoyed this tutorial and have learned something from it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell in the corner to be notified anytime a new tutorial drops. And don't forget, we are on Instagram and we have a Facebook group. So join those because we have all kinds of fun giveaways, and I share additional tips and tricks in those areas as well. And that is all for today. So thank you so much, and we will see y'all next time.